Good afternoon. This is the second part of the ACA webinar that we are providing to our clients. You should have already obviously watched part one already. If you haven't, you need to go watch that, because now we're going to talk about some of the things and what we're seeing now in the industry and what company leaders are being faced with and how we're going to take care of some of these problems. So the first off, we need to talk about the old way of health insurance. The old way of health insurance starts with you get a broker, right? You need insurance, you want to find somebody that can shop for you, so you find somebody and boom, you now have a broker. You then have some type of person inside your office, whether that is an actual HR person, an office admin, or whoever. You basically tap them and say, you're in charge of all the HR and the employee benefits stuff, right? Typically is the way it starts. Then you get a payroll company, or you had a payroll company previously. So the payroll company starts doing payroll, you give them the deductions. As you go through open enrollment, you send them the new updates, and blah, 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 right? And that's pretty much it. That was the old way of dealing with insurance. It all started with you, and then you would go ahead and communicate between the health guy, HR, and payroll. And for the most part, it worked, right? No big regulations to deal with, and it may have been a pain in the butt to a degree, but it was absolutely doable and not something that you were really looking to put in a lot of resources to changing. But let's review what has changed, okay, versus the old way. Remember, the old way, there's no eligibility. There's no requirements. You just fill out the form, put it online, whatever the case is. Well, now we need to do FTE calculations. We need affordability calculations. You have to make sure that all your measurement and administration stability periods are taken care of and documented. You need to classify new hire measurement periods. You have to make sure that the appropriate enrollment forms are documented properly, and that all of your employees that should be enrolled are enrolled, or you got the waivers for why they're waiving to avoid penalties. You have to use timekeeping in order to track your variable employees and to determine eligibility on an annual basis based off your measurement periods. Right? Those are all the things that we have to do now, completely different from the old way. So now, what are brokers actually doing? Okay, the health guy is what we'll call him here, or the brokers, the health ladies, whatever. They're providing a universal rate, right? They don't dictate the rates. If you come to me and you say, John, give me a Care First quote for Plan A, and you go to somebody else and ask them for a Care First group for Plan A, it's the same plan, right? The same rates. It'll come back the same. Brokers have no effect on the actual rate. They typically just forwarded the information along, right? So you talked to them, called them up and said, hey, yo, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, and they just forwarded it along to the carrier, okay? You send them an email with an enrollment form, just forwarding it along, okay? Then they answer some of the questions about billings and benefits, things like that if there's a problem. But usually it's only during open enrollment that they come out and they talk to you during your renewal, right? And then what do you have to do? You're the person that's filling out all the papers, you're meeting the employees multiple times, and you're chasing employees around to get all the information, right? That's pretty much what you did. The broker comes out and says, hey, here's your renewals, here's your new rates, not much more we can do. Go do it, all right? Go get all these paperwork filled out. That's essentially what their role was, and there's some strategy, obviously, in setting up the health plan, but if we take strategies are typically universal for the most part. There's new products that evolve, such as like gap insurance. We take those new products and we develop a new strategy, and once that strategy has been implemented, it's usually the best that we can do. The real question comes down to is, what is the broker actually doing for you outside of providing the rates and the initial strategy, which most HR people are well aware of how to even structure these things nowadays because you've been around the block long enough, right? So now we have a problem. The ACA comes out, right? And what do the broker says? And this is, I know you all have heard it. Well, go talk to the payroll guy. Talk to the accountant. Oh, this is a tax thing. We don't do that, okay? That's what we're hearing from these guys. There's a legitimate issue going on here. This ACA is where the problem is. We have to be able to address this, and the health guys and the health insurance brokers are saying, well, I don't know. I don't know about you, but my clients don't accept that. If they call us up and say, hey, there's a problem, if I say go talk to somebody else, I'm out of client pretty quickly. So what do they say? All right, well, talk to payroll. Well, they have the wage information, right? Oh, payroll, they got all the wage data. Okay. Oh, they also have all the HR stuff, right? They got HR, We have the extra staff. There's a broker. Talk to your payroll. They have lots of staff over there. They even have better technology. They have all the tracking tools in place, right? And they have all the new employee information, okay? And what are they saying? They're saying, hey, also, they have timekeeping too. Okay, so what are you saying? Well, they equals I'm not qualified to do this anymore. Okay, and then that's really where it is your broker is telling you go talk to somebody else where this is their industry. Okay, granted, there's a lot of different aspects going on, but the biggest one of it is that the brokers had to set all this up the proper way and then tracking things. There's systems. Systems need to be put in place, and they are not willing to do this. They are relying on other people to do the job. The other thing that most brokers have not made their clients aware of is ERISA. Okay, so what's ERISA? ERISA simply is the Department of Labor's term for you have fiduciary responsibility over a plan for your employees. Okay. ERISA was developed so that way the old pension guy couldn't take the money out of the pension and run without getting caught. So they developed ERISA to come up with all these sorts of plans and compliances and things that you have to do to stay regulated. Well, with the development of the ACA, ERISA has been coming down hard on different audits and companies that don't have their documents in place. And a lot of this stuff, again, should have been set up from the beginning with your broker, but most brokers didn't care about it. For the longest time, brokers simply gave you a quote, you signed off on the broker of record, and then they come out and they talk to you about doing renewals and things like that instead of actually dealing with the compliance. You're a large business, okay? Over 50 employees is a substantial company. You have to have all these things in compliance. All plans need to be compliant with ERISA. And the plan docs that the carrier sends you, so when you get your open enrollment forms, you have to sign your contract with Care First, and you put in all the different eligibilities and things like that. Well, that SPD is not compliant. So it would not stand up to an ERISA audit. And the issue with this is that plan document also needs to be disseminated to all your employees. So how many of your employees actually have a copy of the plan document? I'm not talking about your benefit plan where it says, hey, your copay is this, your emergency is this, and blah, blah, blah. Your actual plan document. What about your Section 125 plan? Okay, do you actually have election forms for your 125 plan? How about waivers? Okay. You need a method to prove that the employee got this information. Okay, and what is it going to be? A paper filing cabinet? I mean, come on, we make money on efficiencies, and that's the way that big business gets there. We become efficient, and that way we're able to make money on these things. Penalties for these things are steep. It's $110 a day per employee. So if you have, let's say, 150 employees and times 110, that's $16,000 a day in penalties. Okay, and they can typically ding you up to, I think it's $40,000. I think they changed it to. So ERISA is becoming a real big sticky point where a lot of people are caught with their pants down because nothing's been implemented with this. And again, the ERISA all comes back to the health insurance broker. It should have been set up at the time that the plan was taken care of. And with the ACA, all these things are starting to come up now. Hey, we got to get these things documented and blah, blah, blah. But most brokers aren't discussing these. These are where the people that are really involved in ACA understand the potential issues for these. So the solutions for better business, right? Because that's our goal. We need to have a new viewpoint on how we deal with things, okay? And as you should notice by now, the solution is actually three-pronged, right? It's HR, benefits and payroll. The requirements are changing, and we need a solution that requires a different way of looking at things. The old way is not a good way. So, I'm going to challenge you here. You have to take a look at the big picture for your organization and see how it's currently structured and what services you're receiving from your health insurance agent, because that is going to be the only efficient way to take care of this compliance as far as cost efficiencies go. So what we have done is we've developed a PRS Benefits. And PRS Benefits has been around for a while, but we've really been putting a lot of emphasis on ACA Solutions. And our ACA Solutions are designed to take care of all of these compliance rules and regulations. And a lot of clients are going to be like, I don't want to pay for this, and we feel like we're getting backed into a corner or whatever the case is. That's just not the case. You're getting backed into the corner by what the government is doing. You are forced to do this now. There's nothing that we can do to prevent it. If you refuse to deal with these things, you're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars of penalties. Our solution encompasses all these areas that we need to address: monthly ACA classification, affordability, employee onboarding, which we'll talk about in a minute, benefit brokering, employee benefit enrollment system, automated enrollments, 1095 reporting, payroll timekeeping, and ERISA compliance. So all of these are the solutions that are impacting clients that they need. They need to have a solution that does this. And there's two interesting things that a lot of people are forgetting when they go out and they start looking for solutions. There's a lot of people go, well, it's just technology. I'll build an Excel form, or I'll build a database and access to track all this stuff. Is it HIPAA compliant? What is HIPAA compliance? Well, HIPAA compliance simply governs protected health information, or PHI is what they call it. Okay, protected health information is any time where there's some type of medical information that could be tied to an individual. So let's say you have documented Healthy Blue 1500, blah, 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 and then you have it to John Doe, or you have it tied to his social security number or something. Well, that's what we call PHI, protected health information, and now you fall into HIPAA compliance. So that's the other thing that you need to make sure of. Is the solution HIPAA compliant? Ours is HIPAA compliant. We have made sure of that because these are one of these things where the next shoe is going to drop. The next thing is how do we take care of this in an efficient fashion? Because, as I add employees or go through open enrollment, we need to be able to track all this. Well, you're going to have to implement employee onboarding. And what an employee onboarding system does is it takes the employee from the moment you hire them and puts them through a phase of processes to onboard that employee. It will take them through documenting electronic waivers, putting in their elections. It'll also document employee handbook tracking, certifications, the whole 9 yards, I-9s, W-4s, you name it. So it's important now that when we look at large businesses, the field is changing as far as what you need. A lot of businesses would say, that we previously were dealing with, we did a little bit of HR for them. We did heavy payroll, heavy timekeeping, labor distribution, and things like that for it, which is their day-to-day activities, which they need. But this new problem of the ACA requires a new view on how to conduct business. And so what we want to leave here with this is very simple. We have a solution that encompasses all these things. And it's got to start from the employee onboarding phase, and it's got to be inclusive of payroll, HR, and benefits. The three cannot be separated anymore to achieve actual cost efficiencies. We will be reaching out to each one of our clients to set up a one-on-one meeting with you, whether it's on the phone or in person, to discuss these different options that need to be taken care of. And we're going to leave it up to you as far as what you want to do. But this is the solutions that have to be taken care of. These are the solutions to the problems which must be taken care of. Unfortunately, you don't have an option yet unless something changes in the future with Obamacare. We predict that if there is a change, it would be after the next presidential election. So you're still talking about 2.5, 3 years of having to deal with this compliance before any type of relief may come in. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a buzz, drop us an email, or visit our website. We will, again, be reaching out to you to kind of discuss more about what needs to be done and how do we actually implement this real solution in your office. But again, feel free to rewatch the video or go ahead and reach out to us. Thanks for your time today. And again, any questions, give us a buzz.